Hello, good morning, everyone, and welcome. My name is Cuvalo, and my thesis work is entitled Exploring the Roles of Trait Emotional Intelligence and Personality in Help-Seeking Behavior. And that's specifically among undergraduate students here at UWO. And it's a cohort that is composed primarily of emerging adults, as defined by the literature, anyone who's between the ages of 18 and 25 years of age. So, some background. University counseling directors, program facilitators have identified a mental health phenomenon occurring among undergraduate age students. So across the literature, rates of depression, anxiety, worry are all spiking across undergraduate student populations. And so in response to this, universities have increased the number of help services available on campuses, and research is demonstrating positive associations between the use of formal help services and academic performance, as well as holistic well-being. And yet, students are not seeking formal help, the majority of them at least. So why is that? Perceived stigma and the need for promotional efforts on campuses have been identified in the literature ad nauseum, but it still feels as if there is something more at play here. And specifically, that could be individual differences in emotional intelligence and or personality. And so trait emotional intelligence is defined as a constellation of emotional self-perceptions located at the lower levels of personality hierarchies. It was coined by Dr. K.V. Petrides over at the London Psychometric Lab. And this construct is newer than the Big Five factor model of personality, which was developed by Costa and McCrae in the early 1980s. I'm sure you've heard of this before. That's composed classically of neuroticism, openness, conscientiousness, extroversion, and agreeableness. And so there is a need to identify, to tease apart the degree of overlap between trait emotional intelligence and the Big Five factor model. Some research has identified that up to 57% of the variance in trait EI scores can be accounted for by the Big Five. So is trait EI a repackaging of an older trait model? So some modeling for you guys here. This is Rick Wood et al.'s help-seeking measurement framework, which was created in order to facilitate comparison of studies on help-seeking behavior, as the literature here has been a little bit empirically sloppy, but interest has spiked here over the past decade. So in this work, we're focusing specifically on influences on the help-seeking process, so individual differences in emotional intelligence and personality. And so we're focused specifically on attitudes toward, intentions to commit, and actual help-seeking behavior. We're surveying actual help-seeking within the past academic semester and general attitudes and intentions. And we're concerned with formal and semi-formal campus-based help services. So here at UWO, that's academic counseling, psychological counseling, residential counseling, and a few other UWO-specific formal and semi-formal services for all kinds of assistance. We're not specifying there, and for any kind of concern. So whether that be a mental health diagnosis or just a symptom. So the objectives of this work is to identify are individual differences in affect-related personality traits associated significantly with attitudes toward, intentions to commit, and actual help-seeking behavior. Does trait EI outpredict or offer incremental validity over the Big Five in this context in determining attitudes toward help-seeking behavior at a large Canadian university? And so finally, the last objective listed here is a bit of a check on Fisher and Asgen's 1991 theory of planned behavior, the upper pathway. Does attitudinal orientation toward help-seeking predict future intentions to seek help? And consequently, does future intention to seek help, is it predictive of actual help-seeking behavior? So the hypotheses for this study are that neuroticism will correlate negatively with global trait EI, and by extension, correlating negatively with attitudes toward help-seeking, while the other four factors, extroversion, openness, agreeableness, and conscientiousness, will correlate positively with global trait EI, and by extension, attitudes toward help-seeking behavior. A high global trait EI score will be positively associated with attitudes toward, intention to commit, and actual help-seeking behavior. And finally, it's hypothesized that trait EI and the Big Five will demonstrate significant overlapping coverage at the facet level. So the methods for this study, it can be defined as quantitative, exploratory, using a cross-sectional design, so a single-use Qualtrics survey made completely of self-report measures. It's in circulation from March 19th to April 30th. The sample is composed entirely of undergraduate students enrolled at UWO as of the winter 2021 semester across all faculties. So this is a very simplistic path model here shown. We're hoping to have over 125 survey takers by the end of April. As of recording, we're at just over 90. And so, of course, the method of analysis, path analysis, latent variable modeling, basically we're looking to determine the goodness of fit between the hypothesized model and collected data. And ultimately, this work serves to help institutions identify those students who might be most at risk of suffering in silence based on popularized dispositional variables such as trait EI and personality.